What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are working on my 72 Nova. We're putting a set of factory bucket seat mounts in it. That way we can go ahead and get the interior wrapped up on this car and get it one step closer to the track. Show you what we got going on. So these are the bucket seat brackets. They come in a kit. You got these two pieces, and then there'll be a couple smaller pieces on the outside corners there. Of course, these main ones are just the ones right here in the center. And to try and index these things, they kind of fit on themselves. That's kind of got a step in it. Goes right against the floor pan. I went ahead and ground around the bracket. Same thing there. The back one, it kind of sort of indexes itself. But what I'm going to do is get this front one tack welded in place, and then just use, of course you can't see that with sun glare. Let me try this. There we go. We got that seat there. It's out of a Cavalier, kind of a cheap seat. They got some nice lumbar. This one's kind of wore out, so I'll have it reupholstered. I didn't really want the big high sitting factory buckets, nor did I have them. So I thought these kind of sat low, which gave a good feel, especially when you're talking about needing headroom for your helmet if you go drag racing or even autocrossing or what have you, where you're required to have so many inches of headroom. But either way, I kind of like those seats. They're comfortable, but we're going to go ahead and mock them up with the front brackets here, and then that'll help us index where the rear ones go. And then with that said, then I can set my outside bracket. So here we go. All right, guys, we got the mounts all in. Got the seat mounted and relocated the shifter. I was going to use this console. It's out of an early Camaro, but with these braces in here, it's just too wide. It bows out down at the bottom. It doesn't fit real well. Let me show you how that fits. Went ahead and set the seat up roughly in the right driver's position. It might be a little bit far forward, but here's the console, and you can see where it's hitting. Of course, this console, it's cracked. It's kind of beat up, but I thought that would give it kind of a finished look. I could make a plate covering the B&M Pro Stick shifter there. Still got room around my gauges. Thought that would be kind of nice. I kind of like the idea of having a finished interior. Trying to get this car done for a couple no prep races, and in the street class they want you to have carpet, so we got to get carpet in here. And like I said, I just thought that'd be kind of neat putting a console in here. I thought about trying to modify it because all these pieces will come off. They kind of unscrew. I thought about just making some new side pieces, or since it's kind of scrap anyways, I could just cut this around where these are at, where these floor braces are at, make it fit a little better, make a nice plate down there. Figured it'd be kind of cool because this lifts up. There's a hole there. It would be good for, you know, fastening it down to a bracket if I had to, but it would be nice to have storage. Thought about coming in here somewhere in this range and putting like one of those USB plugs. Thought that'd be nice to charge the phone and be able to keep the lid closed. Just a thought. And then also, never mind the rust, was just a scrap piece of like a 14 gauge steel. Put this in my metal brake and made a new glove box door. I gotta do a little bit more clearancing up there. But my thought was, I could put that fuse panel in there. There's 6 positives. You got your hot that comes in. Let me just pull this out of here. So you have your hot wire comes in here. Of course, this is marked. And then you got 3 fused here, 3 fused over here, and the little lights if you have a blown fuse. But then down here you got a ground, and you got 6 other positions for ground wires. And there's my switch panel. It's covering up the radio. I just thought it would be kind of nice just to throw it in there. So I need at least 3 fuses, 4 fuses of these 6. And this car never actually had a glove box in it the whole time I've owned it. So I thought, you know, I could slide this over to the side, still run my wires in, have them all kind of neat and tidy. And then I still have plenty of room over here. Like I wanted to add another fuse panel if I needed to. Or it'd just be nice to be able to throw tickets in there. Of course, keep your registration, your insurance in there. Just trying to keep things where they're easy accessible. So I decided to do some drag and drive events with this car. It would be nice to be able to get right to some of the wiring. I always try to plan ahead for, you know, the what ifs and just what do you got to do in the middle of the night when you're running between events. 2012, I was working for QA1 and we did the Hot Rod Drag Week and the Power Tour. And of course we were just in a dually with a 26-foot trailer, but you never know when something's going to happen. You know, with us, we had to beat all the cars to the next venue so we could get set up. So just knowing how that works, and got to talk to some of the drivers in 2012 and seeing how things work. It's always nice to plan ahead and have things laid out where they're easily accessible. And this is the wiring. It's going to be running back to the trunk. This here, you know, we got a 4 gauge for the alternator. We've got a 12 volt or 12 gauge for the fuel pump. This 8 gauge right here will be for the fuse block on the firewall. And of course this is 2 gauge. See if I can find a spot on here where we can see it. I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it, but either way, it's it says it's welding cable. This is a very thin strand wire. I can go in the trunk and show you a little bit more. But just trying to run them underneath the carpet where they're going to lay at. This would be kind of laid like that. Runs up. I got a bulkhead for the starter cable, and then I used hose glands like David Freiberger talked about for running the other 2 wires through the firewall. Now my 4 gauge, I don't have anything to run it through, so what I'm thinking is adding another one of those electrical bulkheads and then keeping the starter and the alternator separate. I'll show you what's going on in the trunk here. That's for my Optima battery, and then of course this is where all the wires come in the trunk at. Here you might be able to see what size this is. Yeah, there we go. Hold on. Right, get it to focus. 0 gauge, 2 gauge. I kind of stumble on trying to figure out wire sizes. But anyways, this is where the battery go. And then I'll have my disconnect probably come down here somewhere underneath of the bumper. Right now I'm replacing the tail panel and this lower section here, which is this piece, that piece there, and then this piece goes inside of there also. Sorry for the grainy video right there, it's just kind of dark. But eventually this car will be nice. You can see the amount of body filler in this back quarter where it's had partials put on it before. And then it fell off a jack stand. It got this huge wrinkle right here. So I'm just going to do one of the small patch panels right here just to get it through. Till we get a chance to really put a full set of quarters on it. As you can tell, it's a little rough around the edges. That's okay. You know, the vinyl top's peeling up right there. What I thought about doing is peeling the vinyl top off and then going ahead and doing like DP90 sealer and just sealing it where the vinyl top goes, just kind of still give it the two-tone look. But there's a stand back look of the interior. Still a long way to go, but getting the seats mounted was a help. That was very, very beneficial. And then I'm waiting on another set of seat tracks to come in here. And ironically enough, these seats come out, I think, like a 2000 Cavalier. And I ordered a set of 66 to 72 GM A-body seat tracks. And those seat tracks bolted to the bottom of those Cavalier seats with no modifications. I was pretty relieved about that, knowing I didn't have to go drill a bunch of holes and change mounting locations on the seat tracks for the seat to fit. I wanted to put a set of Kirkies in here, but the wife told me that she didn't want to ride in a Kirky aluminum race seat, so I think those look all right. You know, I've contemplated pulling the headrest off, but maybe not. We'll see how it goes. Maybe just when the seat gets reupholstered, trim them down a little. And then 5.3 LS motor for a future build. Here's the engine. It's a 327, it's 30 over. It's got Dart Sportsman 2 heads on it, forged crank, forged pistons. I'll probably end up swapping out this Holly Street Dominator intake for a Victor Jr. Depending on how fast the car runs, I'm hoping somewhere maybe in the mid 12s with this 327, 331, however you want to say it. I'd like to get in the low 11s, so I might have to put maybe 150 shot of nitrous on it. And if so, I'll go to a single plane. I know these dual planes don't really distribute nitrous very well. I've seen a few videos on that, but anyways, what we got going on here, we've got the oil breather, and it's plumbed in with both sides of the valve covers. Of course, this one, since I put my coil here, I had to get a 45 instead of the straight, so I gotta cut that, get that mounted back in line. Fuel pressure regulator with a gauge out here so I can set it, and I've got a port here and my isolator right there so I can run a gauge inside so I can keep an eye on the fuel pressure in case something was to happen. Of course, there's my 4-gauge battery cable, and I've got that same 2/0 size ground cable. It goes down to the front of the motor right there and goes straight down to the chassis, to the subframe. These are my transmission lines. I did a standalone cooler. I put a bulkhead fittings right there, and they come out in the front. They were the 90-degree bulkheads, and I believe that's a Durrell cooler. Again, I just wanted nice and clean, functional. That way, if I ever have to take any of this off, I mean, I could literally take this line off and take this bottom off and just loop this one to keep fluid in the line without making a big mess. Aluminum radiator. My fan is right there. I wired it in with a weather pack connector right here. And I made this panel right there to hold the 3 relays and the circuit breakers. Basically, you got one for your starter, you got one for your fuel pump, you got one for the fan. I've got room to put another one right here if I want to run 4. Of course, that those terminal blocks right there have 4, so we've got an extra circuit, and I think I'll be close, but I don't think I can put another circuit breaker right here, so we'll have to see how that goes. But just wanted something there again that's easy to access, but it's kind of out of the way. I know if I drive it a lot in the rain, you got water splashing through here, which may not be a good idea through the headlight, but don't really plan to drive it a whole lot in the rain. Of course, in their drag and drive events, you can run into some of that. But at one point, I was going to build this into a pro touring car. So it's got the KRC, kind of like your dirt track power steering pump. There's the reservoir. I already got the AN fittings on the steering box, and that is one of the fast ratio or faster ratio Jeep Grand Cherokee boxes that I swapped on there. I had to get the rag joint to adapt that over, and then I was going to run another cooler out here if I was going to do the pro touring thing. But of course, with a drag car, you don't really need a lot of cooling on your power steering since you're not really working the steering that hard. So braided cable for the throttle and for the kick down. And down there, I put another bulkhead for my oil pump, or for my oil pressure, sorry. And that goes inside with another braided line. That way there's no chance of a plastic or a copper line breaking and spewing hot oil all over either the windshield or the tires or the engine, possibly catching on fire. I'm trying to think far enough ahead. You got the nice aluminum pulleys, but I didn't have any to start with. Got an aluminum water pump. It's got an ICT alternator bracket. I had to go with a 3-groove pulley, so my back groove would line up with my power steering pump. I can't remember this radiator. It is it's a full aluminum radiator. I bought it from Jegs, and I can't remember the name of the company. But welded up some pinholes. Just over the years, things getting screwed and drilled to the fenders, just having an issue. So I had these sandblasted, spot welded them. I'll go back and grind them all down, give them a nice coat of paint. Probably end up painting them gloss black. Here's another look at those cable glands down there. And then there's the bulkhead it passes through. It runs down to the starter. Like I say, I'm thinking about putting another one either over to the side or up here, maybe over here, that will run to the alternator. That way you don't have to worry about anything chafing. It does have a, I guess that's kind of a private labeled MSD Pro Billet distributor for Jegs. After talking to the guy at Jegs, he was not telling me that, but he was kind of insinuating that they're kind of private labeled. Either way, it's got a small cap distributor in it. Gives you a little bit more room on the firewall, because you can tell that firewall, well, maybe you can't, has been beat on for large cap HEI. This is my dipstick. I kind of space it off the firewall a little bit so you got room to get to it. Well, I think that's about all I can show you for now. Just kind of maybe step over here and give you a rough idea what it looks like from the side. I don't think that's really going to work that far. It's got weld drag lights on it, 3.5s and 8s. Kind of how it was when I first owned a car back in the late 90s, when I used to street race this thing almost every weekend. Got a new set of front fenders on it. That's why they're in a blue sealer. Don't really match the rest of the car. Of course, it's kind of low, which I kind of like. Roughly, I think it's about 3 inches lower in the front. And I got the back lowered 3 inches also. I'll probably run like cow tracks on it. I thought about the Moroso slide links. Not 100% sure just yet, but I've got a 2.5-inch cow, a steel cow hood for it. I thought about going back with a 4-inch, but for now I think the 2.5 will be fine. So anyways, that's the 72 Nova. And like I said, I'm hoping to make this October 15th no prep race down in Morning View, Kentucky at Thornhill Dragway. I'm not sure if it'll happen, but we'll see. All right, guys, if you wouldn't mind, give me a thumbs up. Comment if you like what you see, or if you got questions. Subscribe. Trying to do better at putting out videos. My channel's kind of all over the place. I own a trucking company, but I also have a welding and fabrication shop where we build old trucks, old muscle cars like this. Do a lot of different welding and fabrication projects on different things, and also run a small farm. So I am busy, and I'm trying to grow the business. As far as on this kind of work right now, we got a 51 Chevy truck in the shop and a 64 F100. I'll try and do some updated videos on those, as well as some of the other projects that we have around here that are my personal vehicles. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned.